What's up, everybody? Nick Powell's, publisher of 1851franchise.com, with another episode of Meet the Zor. We're talking with Hawaii Fluid Art. Coming up next. All right, Maya, we got a lot to talk about, but first we're going to start with you. Tell me what your franchise story is. How did you accidentally fall into this industry?
Well, thank you for having me. And I think it's a little bit of an interesting story, actually. A few years ago, I was looking for a hobby. I had a very stressful job. I did consulting for small to medium-sized businesses, restructuring them. And I started taking art classes, and I was horrible at all of them. And I would leave the class feeling disappointed. And I started playing with different forms of art at home. And I came across this fluid art method, and I started enjoying this hobby that I was creating. And then I started posting things on Facebook, and people started wanting to buy my art. And then soon people started asking me to teach it. So I set up a studio in my 2-car detached garage, and in the first 6 months taught over 1,000 people, and realized that this was something that people really enjoyed, and ended up opening my first retail location May 1st, 2021. At the same time, I had created something called the mobile unit, where I could take the party to people. And so there was a very exclusive resort that I would go to every Friday and offer fluid art experiences. And I've taught everybody from Matthew McConaughey to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Pink, the list goes on. And one afternoon after class, this group of well-known actors and actresses came up to me and said, "Maya, we want to talk to you about something." And so I was like, "Okay, what's up?" And they said, and I'll never forget this, "We've traveled the world. We've never seen anything like what you do. And we think everyone deserves to experience Hawaii fluid art. We think you should franchise." And I knew nothing about franchising at that point. And that is what put the idea in my head. And then I started doing a lot of research, and here we are 3 years later.
Awesome story. I want to unpack some stuff from it. I want to go back to what you said. I was in a stressful job. I'm consulting with small to medium-sized businesses. Mm-hmm. And obviously art was a stress reliever for you. I would imagine that a lot of your franchisees are going to have a similar path. And frankly, you can hear this in anybody that has high stress, even giant musicians of getting on stage. Like, they have to find a way to have an outlet outside of music, and they turn to art.
Right.
If you go back to that moment, what made you push doing your own business versus you saying, and you're a consultant, so you know that a franchise brand already has all the construct in order, versus you saying, "I want to become a franchisee of another business"?
Well, I was a consultant that restructured small to medium-sized businesses. I knew nothing about franchise consulting or the franchise industry at that time. Yeah. And why did I look into my own business? Because it happened by accident, and it was so organic, and people wanted what I was offering. And my background was in business development and creating SOPs, et cetera, for other businesses, that I had an advantage to be able to set up this business how I really wanted it to be. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't know about franchising. I, at the time, thought franchising was Taco Bell and Subway. I didn't even know that almost every business you saw was a franchise.
I'm glad you said that last part, and I'm going to say this comment because I see it on your website. Every human being that I've talked with about franchising says, "I thought franchising was something else. I didn't understand it." Yet every franchise brand, you land on their franchise site, you click on this button, and nobody says, "Let us explain what franchising is first. Let's skip to buy our franchise." Right. And so if you take that insight and you cross apply that back to people who might eventually say, "Ooh, I'm interested," it will shorten the gap. And frankly, this is why the franchise broker community has exploded, because they're like, "Hey, we'll educate you." Mm-hmm. It's complex, but okay. So the celebrity friends say, let's do this. Like, this makes total sense. What were your expectations of going through the process of becoming a franchisor, where did your expectations get missed, and where were you blown away with the process positively?
Well, I after that evening, I went home and I wrote down this list of unrealistic goals, but to me, they were realistic. And part of that was research. I started researching franchising. I dug deep, interviewed companies, and heard all of the success stories, right? Nobody's on there saying how hard it is and how much work you put in and how much it costs. Everybody's just like, oh yeah, I did a great job, sold my company for $350 million in 5 years. So I did a lot of research. And I think fast forward to today, when people ask me, did it go as I thought it would? Yes and no. So yes, franchising is what I thought it was in some aspects. And in other aspects, it's nothing like what I thought it was going to be. You have challenges on a daily basis with independent business owners who wanted a franchise because of the structure and the proven method and model, etc. Also maybe don't want to follow the rules. Mm-hmm. And that's something that you have to be able to navigate on a daily basis, because you have so many different personality types and so many different locations around the United States. And I learn every day. Every day I learn. I will never be an expert in this field. I will always have so much to learn.
Well, that probably comes back to you being a consultant too. I mean, consultant doesn't know everything. They continue to position their point of view on problems that appear, but and use their experience. But that's a great take on it. What is how many units do you guys have open now?
27 units open, 44 in different stages of development, and a bunch in real estate search phase. So we should have 100 units open by the end of this year.
So where are these franchisees coming from? How did you get this growth going at that kind of pace?
Well, consultants from around the country. We have consultant nights at our stores sometimes where we invite consultants in, because once you actually have the aha moment with Hawaii Fluid Art and play with the paint and see the joy that it brings to the average person, we call it the happy bug, right? People catch the HFA happy bug because it's a business that spreads joy. It's profitable, it's easy to open, and it's easy to run. And so when you have that grouping of low startup cost, great profit margins, low employee count, it's just kind of a winner. And we've been very fortunate in organic leads, people actually going to Hawaii Fluid Art, falling in love and calling us and say, hey, I want to learn more about the franchise brand. Mm-hmm. And we also do franchise shows. We go and set up our booth and we do live demonstrations at franchise shows. And I think it's a culmination of all of that. And then just hard work and doing a good job with the candidates that you do get, and making sure you take good care of those candidates and the consultants that referred them.
What's the cost to get in?
It ranges. Our range is $157 starting, including everything, including franchise fee, up to about $250 if you had a gray shell, something like that.
Yeah, got it. And are you doing an item 19? Is there any numbers in there that you want to share?
We do have an item 19. The new item 19 comes out in a couple months. I do not have the numbers sitting in front of me, but it does have a very high EBITDA. And those are actually available upon request anytime anybody wants to see them.
When you're looking at the construct of the business, is that where the magic of your previous consulting came into play? You may have not known about franchising, but you understand that the cost to get in, how much you can make, has to be sound if you're going to hit scale. Like, is that where that's where your superpowers started hitting, your business superpowers started hitting the franchise?
That is part of it. But I think the more important part is realizing that things can go wrong and creating SOPs before they happen. So supply chain issues. Okay, this is a possibility. We could have a supply chain issue. Okay, let's be sure that we have more than one vendor for every single product. Yeah. The lack of knowledge for basic customer service, and creating HFA University, which talks about how to greet the customer, words of encouragement, what aloha means. So what we really did, when I say we, I mean myself and my leadership team, is we wrote a protocol for the business model as well as where we want to be. And every day we work hard to get to where we want to be. We have our own private label paint company now. We have our own private label resin. We have a proprietary booking system. We have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week call center based in Las Vegas, Nevada. So we really looked at where all the other stores and so-called competition were lacking and put things in place so we would be better than the average paint shop.
So you're pacing to 100. You're talking about a three-ish year run to get there.
Yeah, well, we didn't launch to the public until about 18 months ago, but yeah,
even faster.
Mm-hmm.
The reason you left your last job was stress. Like, how are you managing it now? Is it different when you're passionate about what you do? I mean, you were passionate about what you did then, but
that is a good question. And people ask me that often. And I'm very blessed that my franchisees are incredible humans and send me words of encouragement on a daily basis. They thank us for how much we do. We're all about instantaneous communication, but it's a lot of work. And, I have people call me that are thinking about franchising their business, and I give them words of encouragement, but I also let them know it's the hardest thing you're ever going to do. Yeah. A 16-hour day is normal in this business. Absolutely normal. If you're an involved founder, you are grinding away with your leadership team every single day, and you're lucky if you get a Sunday afternoon off. It is just part of growing a brand that's growing quickly, but more importantly, growing in the right direction with the right support for the franchisees.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think some of the things that you've said, you can see the 5-year $300 million exit stories, which there are not many of them. You can take the data point, and you obviously buck this trend that 67% of startup franchisors don't even award a unit in their first 2 years. You think about what you're actually doing. You're convincing someone to invest their life savings in a business they have little to no control over. So it is a really, really tough thing. And this goes for franchisees or franchisors. Anything that makes money, except for the random scratch and win lottery tickets. But it takes time and energy and effort. So you get the words of encouragement from your franchisees, but for you constantly chasing what equals happiness, have you found that piece on how the hard, it's not hard work, you're looking at it more as like a passion project? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it's absolutely a passion. It's also responsibility. I owe it to my franchisees to be the best that I can be every single day. Yeah. This is not a me against them. This is an us. If they need something at 10 o'clock at night that is going to impact their business and their future, it is our responsibility as a leadership team to provide that information to them. Whether you have portals and training modules and all the other things, there are times that you just forget where to find something and you need it immediately. So the sense of responsibility is there to help support the franchisee at all costs. And yes, I find a lot of joy in it. I definitely am a very driven individual. I know where the brand is headed. I know that eventually we will have 350 locations around the United States. There are just things that you have to believe in with every ounce of your being. When you work hard and smart together and have really good people on your leadership team, that makes the whole process easier.
Yeah. Did any of those celebrities that told you to do this, did they become franchisees?
No, but I've never offered them a franchise. I definitely get some words of encouragement and way to go, girls, though. That's for sure.
Well, that's cool. Alcohol, is there any alcohol involved in this?
It really depends on the location and the individual franchisee. So we do not make that mandatory. The franchisee, based on their county, city regulations or rules, can either do BYOB, a beer and wine permit, or an actual liquor license. We are family friendly, but adult centric. So several of our franchise locations either have or are in the process of getting the beer and wine. It's just easier than a full liquor license.
Right.
So yes, you can explore art in a fun way while having a cocktail in certain stores.
All right. I have a follow-up question, and I'm prefacing it with, this is weird that I'm even going to ask this.
That's okay.
But I mean, I'm looking at the pretty pictures. Does the future of the legalization of marijuana make it into the concept at some point?
Well, that's an interesting question, because we've actually had, not in my stores, but in locations where marijuana is legal, they did something called, not in store, clarification, no marijuana smoking in the stores, but a large group after hours did a puff and paint party where they, at a not our location, but at a separate location, did whatever you do with marijuana, and then came and painted in one of the locations. They bust them all in. There's lots of great pictures, and they had a lot of fun. So I would say that adults will always find a way to misbehave with an experience if they can. So there's that.
And then you change it to Colorado fluid art for that one night, right?
Well, I guess it just depends on the location. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, my statement is this: like, if I think about, there was an explosion, I would say maybe 10 years. I mean, as I get older, my recollection on timing deteriorates.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 years ago, the paint and sip franchises exploded. Part of the challenge was there was no point of differentiation. So what it turned into is proximity. Whichever one was closest to me is the one that I go to. I enjoy it. It goes in my cadence. I do it with my friends. It's a social event, or from a party standpoint. But they imploded because they were all exactly the same. So it just didn't stick. Here, there's in my opinion, the way that I'm seeing it, there's a different approach to the art form. And so you're falling into this new category that's being created, which, like, I can see it happening with making of candles or making of perfumes, like all these new waves of thinking or points of differentiation in the product experience are coming online. I think about the self-serve frozen yogurt brands. It was a tremendous experience. I don't think the customer ever went away. There just was no point of differentiation. They all got the product from the same place. Yeah. So in those two examples, like when you're thinking about your journey, is that also part of the magic? Like the paint and sip customer never went away. The businesses went away because they couldn't sustain the volumes that they needed to be a sustainable business, you know?
Yeah. So the only thing that we have in common with those other brands is that we use paint. Right. So the whole thing is a different vibe. When you walk into our studios, they're not sterile. They're not white. They're black with a hot pink wall and neon. They smell like a vanilla kissed orange. We have a curated radio station. And then we have a retail component in the front where we feature local artists and jewelry makers, candle makers, artisans of all types. And that draws people in that are just walking by. Yeah. But then we bring you back into an active art studio where we have different experiences every hour on the hour during the day. We have fluid art. We do resin tumbler making where you can create your own customized Yeti. We have resin beach scenes, and we even do skateboards and guitars. We do canvases as small as a 12 by 12, but all the way up to a 4 foot by 5 foot. So what happens is people come in the first time because the retail may draw them in, or they saw an ad on Instagram, and then they realize that they had a great time. Their piece of art turned out spectacularly because everybody's does. And if they don't love it, we scrape off the paint and let them do it again. Anybody with any ability or different ability can take the class. All of our studios are ADA compliant. And then they had this great experience. And then they realized, wait a minute, I can do a big one for my living room wall. And the cool thing is even when they take the small one home, they actually hang it on the wall. It's not going in the closet or the garage because it's not just a bird on a branch in front of a barn. It's this beautiful, unique piece of art. And then every time they see it, they remember what a good time they had. And that's why our return rate is so good. And so Hawaii Fluid Art has a strategic plan to grow with trends, but also keep our steady base. And so we add new classes every 6 months. We have guest instructors. We have holiday themed classes, make ornaments. We do right now, because of the Valentine's special, we're doing charcuterie boards in the shape of a heart with 2 wine glasses. I mean, it's just endless. And we understand that people always want a new experience. And so that's why it's Hawaii Fluid Art, a place to create.
All right, I have one more question now that you just said this, and I'm impressed with your approach and your demeanor and the way that you're looking at this business. Earlier you talked about creating the SOPs before a challenge happens, and I'm hearing you, like, even on the curriculum that you're building. Out of curiosity, did you create an SOP if we were in a lockdown scenario again, and how this translates back into the home?
Yes and no. So in all of our lease writers and all of our information help in our real estate guidance, we make sure that there are force majeure clauses in the leases.
Yeah.
That being said, do we have packaged product that you can ship to a customer's home? We do, in case, but we all hope and pray that never happens again, right?
Yeah, I mean, one time in our lifetime is one too many, but
that is enough.
But again, like in the consultancy and your approach to this business and thinking through worst case scenario, and knowing that what the experience that you're creating is a social experience that can translate into other things.
I'm gonna show you one of our secret weapons for in case that happens again.
Yeah, let's see it.
Let me pull it out. This has not hit the market yet. People don't know about it. So what we have is we have a curated box that can be shipped. I'm trying to get it out of the box here, where this is not fluid art, but it's a fun canvas that you can take. We can ship this to a home. People can swing by and pick it up. It's a nice canvas. It's nice size. And in the back has all the paints, the things, everything you need. So if that happens, do we have a way to offset? We do. We have more than one. So thinking ahead, making sure that we write those SOPs for issues that could arise.
Love it. Mara, thank you so much for sharing your story. This is great. Love what you're doing. See the pathway. Clearly not a sales issue. Like you have great energy around this thing, and I look forward to seeing where the story goes. Thanks for sharing some of it with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. For I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Zor.